The escape of wanted Nazis from justice in 1945 is much speculated about. Many did evade capture, some, like Adolf Eichmann or Josef Mengele, escaping down rat lines to South America in the years immediately after the war. But a few made dramatic escapes in the chaotic last days of the war, and one of the most dramatic was that of Leon Degrelle, the commander of the Belgian SS on the Eastern Front and a fascist politician. Born in Belgium in 1906, Leon Degrelle was the leader of the right-wing Rexist political party in Belgium when his country was invaded by the Germans in May 1940. After a brief period of imprisonment, Degrelle sided with Hitler. He joined the Walloon Legion, a Belgian unit in the German army, as a private and fought on the Eastern Front. Awarded the Iron Cross Second Class in March 1942, he became an officer, later winning the Iron Cross First Class in combat. The Walloon Legion was transferred to the Waffen SS in June 1943 and renamed Sturmbrigade Wallonien. In early 1944, Degrelle took command of the brigade during fighting in the Korsun-Cherkasy pocket. When the brigade escaped, only 632 of its 2,000 members survived. Degrelle received the Knight's Cross and promotion to SS Sturmbannführer, or Major. In June 1944, a reconstituted Belgian SS unit of 440 men went to Estonia to assist in its defense against the advancing Red Army. The brigade's remnants pulled back to Breslau as the front collapsed. Degrelle received the Oak Leaves to his Knight's Cross and promotion to Lieutenant Colonel in early 1945. After being wounded a total of 7 times on active operations, Degrelle tended to stay out of the front lines in early 1945, visiting his men sporadically while professional military officers directed the units in combat. Degrelle was, by April 1945, seriously concerned for his future. If he was captured by the Soviets, he could expect no mercy. But conversely, if he was captured by the Western Allies, he could expect to be handed over to the Belgians, put on trial for treason, and most probably executed. On the 24th of April 1945, 4 days after being promoted for the final time to SS Standartenführer, or Colonel, he made a final appearance at the front, decorating a few of his men for bravery. He hung about the front until 4 days later on the 28th of April, when he left without informing the senior officers. Driving a staff car with 2 other officers, Degrelle's party arrived in Kalkhorst on the 1st of May. The next day, Reichsführer SS Heinrich Himmler passed through Kalkhorst, but Degrelle couldn't meet him. The next day, on the 2nd of May, Berlin fell to the Soviets, and Degrelle was able to meet Himmler, himself in official disgrace, following his removal from office by Hitler on the 28th of April for secret negotiations with the Western Allies. Himmler was concentrating on moving to Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz's new government, still seeking a role in the new post-Hitler Germany. Degrelle and Himmler met at Bad Segeberg. Degrelle assured Himmler of his continued loyalty to him, and for his part, Himmler said he would do what he could to get Degrelle and his men to Sweden. He also promoted Degrelle to SS Brigadeführer, or Brigadier General, though this was an unofficial move, as Himmler had no authority left to do so. Degrelle's car followed Himmler's motorcade towards Flensburg, but lost track of Himmler in Kiel during the night of the 2nd to 3rd of May. Then Degrelle's car broke down. Another car was found, and the luggage transferred. On the 3rd of May, Degrelle drove into Denmark. His small party boarded a German troop ship that reached Copenhagen at 2 a.m. on the 4th of May. Degrelle's group spent the rest of the night at the German embassy, and then several days meeting with various senior Nazis. Accompanied by his aide SS Hauptsturmführer Robert Duvelz, Degrelle took a ship to Oslo in Norway. The war was almost over, and using whatever authority he still possessed, and the assistance most probably of Albert Speer, Hitler's armaments minister and now part of Dönitz's new government, he made his move to flee to safety. At Oslo airport on the 7th of May 1945, as the German surrender began, Degrelle's party boarded a Heinkel HE-111 H-23 aircraft, a transport version of the famous bomber. Rejecting Sweden, Degrelle had instead decided to flee to Spain, then ruled by a sympathetic fascist regime under General Francisco Franco, and seek sanctuary. But it would be a dangerous flight to make through airspace completely controlled by Allied air forces, and in a relatively slow and lightly armed plane. It would involve crossing a large proportion of Western Europe to reach northern Spain, a distance of at least 2,200 kilometers. The maximum range of a fully loaded Heinkel HE-111 H-23 was about 2,300 kilometers, leaving little room to spare for any deviations or problems. Accompanying Degrelle was his aide, SS Hauptsturmführer de Weltz, and a 4-man Luftwaffe crew. Degrelle's wife and children were not with him. They had disappeared into the chaos of Germany. The flight was made at low altitude all the way, the pilot and crew nervously scanning the skies for Allied fighters and fearful of flak batteries. Fuel was also a problem. They had just enough to reach northern Spain. The pilot chose the small seaside town of San Sebastian on the Bay of Biscay, just over the Pyrenees from France. By the time the Heinkel 111 approached the town, the aircraft was flying on its reserve fuel tank. The aircraft flew over the town, then came around and lined up on the shallow water just off the beach. Feathering the propellers, the pilot crash-landed the Heinkel in the surf. The rough landing tearing the plane apart, ripping off a wing and smashing the nose in. Degrelle broke his arm and suffered other injuries, while several others in the plane were also badly hurt. Spanish police and civilians rescued them and took them to hospital. General Franco resisted calls from Belgium to extradite Degrelle. In 1954, Degrelle was given Spanish citizenship and made the director of a construction firm that ironically built US military airfields in Spain. Degrelle's wife and children also managed to join him in Spain. He led a high-profile existence, even wearing SS uniform and his wartime decorations at certain functions and events. He was involved with neo-Nazi circles, even after Franco's death, publishing pro-Nazi pamphlets and polemics. In 1994, aged 87, he died of a heart attack in Malaga in southern Spain. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also help support my channel at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box.